Hey, Posey, stop going down that rabbit hole. Avoid it because it is a dangerous place to be. Because once you are there, you become diverted from the course of your lawsuit. And not only that, you become distracted. You become confused. You begin to even second guess yourself. And you are there in the first place because the defendant swayed you with some discouragement. Think about it. How many of you have felt like giving up because of something that the defendant said or did? It's bait to lure you into the rabbit hole. There is a fairy tale that I used to watch as a kid, Alice in Wonderland. Do you remember that? Well, in Alice in Wonderland, a rabbit lures Alice down a deep hole, throwing her into confusion and despair. Now, Alice's descent into the hole really symbolizes the prosa's descent into the rabbit hole when he or she is lured by the sways of the defendant. And so this video is about how not to get lured into the hole, and if you do, Posey, how to get out. So let's get started. The Alice in Wonderland fairy tale starts with the sister reading to Alice. Now, Alice is not being attentive, and out of nowhere, while the sister is reading, a white rabbit appears before Alice. The white rabbit takes off, and Alice runs right behind the rabbit, following it right into its rabbit hole. Now, Alice was already a good candidate for the rabbit hole, one, because she was already distracted. That, coupled with a rabbit popping out of thin air, would make anyone inquisitive. Even me, even you. However, here's the point. When you are seeking justice for wrongdoing, you can't afford to be distracted. So I want to give you 3 thoughts on how to avoid the rabbit hole. The 4th thing, how to get out of the rabbit hole if you happen to go in there. Keep your mental eyes locked on the facts and the law. Don't deviate from them and don't lose sight of them. Never, ever, no matter what defendant says or does. The facts and the law should be your gauge to determine the merits of defendants' words and actions. That's important. Look to the law, look to the facts and evidence if that's applicable. Stay focused. My friend, that will prevent you from going to the rabbit hole. Assess your case on a continuous basis and not just yours. Assess the opposing side's defense continually. Some say end up in the rabbit hole because they are not preparing themselves before filing the complaint. One of the constant things I see is the late filing of documents and papers. Now, if anything will make you go into the rabbit hole, this is one of those things. Non-preparation and late failing. Now tell the truth. How many of you have found yourself in this position? Preparing yourself for litigation involves reading the federal and local rules. Every state and every federal court provides a pro se handbook. Contact your court for a copy of that handbook. Pro se, you need to prepare yourself. I can't say this enough. It will keep you out of the rabbit hole. Now, the good news is there is hope. Pro se, fix it. If you find yourself in the rabbit hole and you learned you made an error, just fix it. And in a hurry. The most effective way to fix an error is to mirror the defendant. For those of you who are new to my channel, I started talking about mirroring the defendant early on. So let me illustrate it with this mirror here. So let me ask you a question. What do you see in this mirror? A reflection of what's in the room, right? So what do you see when you look into the mirror? You see reality, right? You see you, your face, your body. We don't always like what we see in the mirror, do we? And when we don't like what we see in the mirror, ladies, we fix it, don't we? And how do we know what to fix? Because the mirror shows us where the defect is. And how do we know where to find it? Because we follow the mirror's reflection, right? So we go to that area where that deficiency is, or that defect, and we apply the corrections. Well, in the same way, that's how we address or respond to an error that we've made. Everybody make mistakes, right? The defendant's motion to dismiss mostly will be the bait that lures the pro se down the rabbit hole. For example, in the motion to dismiss, one of the main things that the defendant contends in the motion is that the pro se failed to state a claim. Immediately, the pro se goes down the rabbit hole. I have seen it. Rather than focusing on the laws and the facts to establish plausibility. And don't just read the defendant's motion to dismiss, assess it. Assess it with the facts and the law. Your perimeters at that point should be focused on the facts and the law. And if you made an error, fix it. And you apply this to everything that the defendant not only writes, but what the defendant says and does. You assess it with the facts and the law and evidence if that's applicable. Are you with me? There is no reason for you to end up in the rabbit hole.